You good? All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Henderson City Council, Wednesday, August 19th. I will be looking for a motion on the minutes.
So moved.
Got a motion on the minutes? Is there a second? Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Request to hear before the council. Brendan Moore. All right. Yep. Yes. You can you come to this one
If he wants to.
Yeah.
Flip it on.
Yeah. Just sure turn the mic on.
If Randy will accept him as a next door neighbor.
Brandon, you can be different.
There you go. You hear me now?
I know I'm always too quiet.
Well, you're up.
Uh-oh, and now it's
New
you.
plan. All right. So, Mayor Many, council members, thank you for allowing me to come before you tonight. I wanted to talk a little bit more about, and I guess better understand what led to the city council recommending the Highway 19 option for the flood mitigation. And I guess, when I go back and look at 2 years ago in May when I was here, sat before you, and resolution was passed recommending the 19 option. And if you want to go back to those minutes, it's very clear. Does Brendan Moore address this? Again, this is from the May 2017 minutes. Brendan Moore addressed the council regarding the flood mitigation presentation held earlier at the Henderson Roadhouse. He strongly supports the Highway 19 option and recommends the city council state their preference for that option. Extensive discussion ensued. Motion Geldner, seconded Wortman, to support the Highway 19 option as presented for the flood mitigation project. And motion carried. So fast forwarding to today, I guess I'm curious, like, when another vote came before the council and when that changed to the 93 option that obviously we're all well aware at this point has been recommended to both Gruenhagen and MnDOT. So I have more to present, but I'd like to pause there and just ask that question. So, I can't find anywhere in the minutes where a revised option was passed before the council or by the council recommending the 93 option. So I guess how did that come to be? So I get, is your interest in engaging in a dialogue here, or just because I want to make sure I understand where we're going with this as a council in terms of, is this a discussion you want the council to have? Are you looking for a dialogue to have with the council, which would be more appropriate at a workshop, or? Well, I guess, again, I have some other things I'd like to cover, but ultimately, I'm asking for and proposing that the city council, led by you, Paul, led by the mayor, send a letter to both MnDOT and Gruenhagen, changing their recommendation from 93 to the 19 option, which is really just bringing the city's recommendation into alignment with how the city council already voted 2 years ago. Because there seems to be a significant misalignment with that right now. Yep. So that's my ask.
Okay, would you mind presenting the rest of what you have?
Sure.
And then once you've concluded your comments, then we can open it up for discussion amongst the council.
Absolutely. So
But that is relatively simple to respond to, though. Yeah, no, I know.
In what
But,
way, Lon?
What's that?
I think then you should.
You've got the information for you pull that off of the hendersonmn.com.
yeah, it's right on the website.
Yeah, if
Yep.
you look if you look on there in May of 2019,
Okay.
there was another motion that was made, or was it June of 19? May was one of the meetings. It wasn't June. So what had happened is, yes, 19 is the preference of largely everybody going back 2 years, and that is 2017, basically based on the 2016, comprehensive plan. And through that process, yeah, 19 made a lot of sense. Oh, are you gonna go get something? Okay. Okay. And so then what had happened, in my recollection, is that the county, so we started an effort, but the county had gained a larger favor with the legislature, if you will, and got County Road 6 written. And so we ended up supporting, and Lon's gonna get it, I guess, or not this, but we ended up supporting through that legislative session, County Road 6, because we had been told basically the entire time, 19 was too expensive, MnDOT wouldn't support it, the representatives wouldn't write for it, and so while it is the preference, no one was willing to do it that has any authority, power, sway, or legislative authorship. So that legislative session, we supported County Road 6. That failed in May. And you'll see all of this in the minutes online on hendersonmn.com. So that failed. Then I believe that was May. I think the session ended in May 25th. And so then we met and discussed, and I can't remember the month, I think it might have been July. So June we discussed it, I believe, and I don't have the minutes in front of me. And then June or July, we passed a resolution supporting shifting our focus to Highway 93. And then we passed resolution 2019-05. And then based on that resolution and the effort, more discussions were had, planning was done throughout the city council process, which culminated in, I presented to the Senate or the House Capital Investments Committee at MSU during their bonding tour, and Senator Newman, he got the House or the Senate Capital Investments Committee actually here on their bonding tour, and both Senator Newman and Legislative Representative Gruenhagen wrote bills for 93 at that time as well. And so then those two presentations happened, continued effort, culminating in it being included in the bonding process, so which is not passed thus far.
So what month you said? June of 19?
It's June or July. Yeah, I think that's what he's pulling up.
So a year ago, this council passed that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall who voted on it?
Yep, it was 4-0. Robin was absent.
Okay. So I guess, part of my issue with the 93 option is that, I've continued several conversations with MnDOT since the governor was here. And if you dig into the detail, there is, the current plan does not include a solution for the Rush River flooding. And MnDOT will fully admit that, which for those of us that live here, that is the problem 95% of the time. It's their plan is to mitigate the Minnesota River flooding at this point, and that is it. It doesn't include dollars for an extended bridge that we've all talked about. It doesn't include dollars for any other option that it would honestly allow water to get from the west side to the east side of 93. So I have a big issue with proceeding down this road knowing that it's not a solution. And I don't believe that has been clearly communicated to, thank you, clearly communicated to the rest of the community. Because I think everyone here is flood mitigation, 93, it's going to solve all our problems. Which, believe me, I'm all for, and I said this, when the governor's here that day too, I'm all for a flood mitigation effort. But the problem is the current plan is not a solution. And it's being, well, we can talk about cost benefit analysis all day long, but if the complete costs aren't included for what a real solution is, it's not an accurate analysis. So, if it was in fact passed by the council, and I was not aware of that, then I stand corrected. But I guess I'm still going to keep pushing for the 19 option in as many ways as we can, because I honestly think that's a better solution for the city of Henderson and for all of Sibley County. And I'm not alone in that, but I don't feel that the clear plan and really pushing for an accurate solution for 93 has been I guess accurately represented to the rest of the community.
I don't think anybody disagrees that Highway 19 would be a wonderful solution, but not everyone agrees in that being a realistic possibility. Mainly MnDOT and the legislators have basically said that's not happening. So that's it. That's with MnDOT saying no and your elected legislators saying no, I'm not sure as a community what kind of effort could avail there. In addition to that, the chamber doesn't necessarily, well, I guess you'd have to ask the chamber. There are people along Main Street who do not support the Highway 19 option either, because to bring that slope in and up over the levee, to have that slope, you basically are changing Main Street from Tootie's all the way. And so that whole topography will change. So you would actually, the road would be, I think, above the roof line of MNCS. And so you actually destroy half of Main Street in that regard, as people know it today. And so in that sense, those are kind of three big hurdles. The main one being, the legislators won't do it. And we had a big joint meeting in this room, and they said they won't do it. And so there's nothing, with MnDOT saying that and the legislator saying, I'm not sure what you're looking for from the city's efforts to go down a road where they said hard pass all the way around.
Well, I guess, and maybe MnDOT and others have, communicated different things, but, Glenn Gruenhagen has been very clear with me that he supports the 19 option, but frankly, he said when he came here, he just wanted to know what the city was recommending. He didn't feel strongly one way or the other, but he thinks 19 makes a lot more sense for the entire county and more of his constituents. But, at the end of the day, if the city council in Henderson was recommending the 93 option, that's obviously what he's supporting. And, I don't believe at the end of the day that the 19 option is going to be significantly more expensive than the 93 option if you include the comprehensive plan and solution for 93 for both the Rush River and the Minnesota River. But I may be, obviously lots of people probably disagree with that. So.
But not Matt Young, I thought.
What's that?
But not necessarily the engineers at MnDOT.
No, I mean, the engineers in MnDOT are the first to say right now, the plan right now does not include a solution for Rush River. MnDOT has gone on record saying they're still looking at what potential solutions are for Rush River. And, you know, obviously working with SEH, doing some hydraulic modeling and other analysis to determine, you know, what that's going to do to you know, what the current 93 option is going to mean for flooding on the west side, increased flooding on the west side of 93 right now. Okay. Anyway. All right. Well, thanks for your time.
I think, you know, Brandon, one of the things that the legislative people told us when they were here is that there had to be some type of probably a local match. What made me vote for 93, and I'll be really upfront with you on this, is MnDOT had funds committed to redoing some stuff on 93, and basically told us that we could use those funds. They would throw those funds into the pot when the legislature was looking at some type of a local match. Okay. And actually they were looking at putting some type of a raise on 93, about 4 or 5 inches, and that money they were willing to throw in. That's what made me go with 93, that match was kind of there.
Okay.
And that would have been done then next year. I mean, that project, that 4 to 5 inches they were talking about would have been done next year.
Correct. Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think it's, I mean, I think it's important to point out, like, that the Rush River has been used as a political pawn to continue to, like, show that there is something needed on that road, and I absolutely agree with that there is something needed on that road, not that it's property used as a political pawn, but now that's actually going to be delayed at least 2 years. So, I mean, the fix that they had slated for 2021 would have cured some of our ailments, but I still even think that they weren't really looking comprehensively at Rush River. But yeah, I appreciate you clarifying that, Randy.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else to appear before the council? Okay, you know, it looks like you can sit now. That's fine. Okay, police chief. Oh, go ahead. Go. Yeah, go. Sorry.
All right, from July 16th to August 11th, police department handled 102 calls for service. And during that time, on completion of the investigations, the following charges were submitted: stalking, harassment, false reporting crime, and child endangerment. 1 traffic citation was issued. The breakdown for the calls was domestic was 1 call, harassment, stalking was P violation 2. We have 5 theft reports, 1 false reporting crime, child protection, dog protection 5, noise complaint 1, 5 suspicious activities, 6 traffic stops, 1 driving complaint followed by direct traffic enforcement, 1 animal complaint, 11 assist other agencies, 44 community policing directed patrol, public assist welfare checks 7, ordinance violation 1. And the other calls were miscellaneous calls, information only, found property, people lock out, the residence checks, and so forth. During that period of time, we had 6 calls holding when sheriff's office was in dispatch, which amounts to, excuse me, $900 savings for the city. We still haven't issued any citation for any nuisance ordinance violation. It appears that people are working with us and correcting problems that we addressed. Training, use of force training has been completed for the department. Equipment, Main unit's got 15,829 miles on it. Oil change was done in July. Next oil change is at almost 19,000. Backup unit has 79,800 miles, and the next oil change due at almost 83,000 miles. Everything's working as far as equipment goes. We at police department spent $78 last month on uniform allowance locally here. State of emergency, except for we didn't really have any major issues reported here. There are new post and BCA requirements that mandated us to add another department's policy. That's witness identification, which was added. And the county as a whole, and I guess the whole state, is going to a new report, crime reporting system, which is called NIBRS. So it's been in the works for several months, and we have conference calls, and basically we are the first agencies that completed training exercises on NIBRS, and we're ready to go. We use this similar system in Louisiana for the report writing, but I guess big agency, they use differently. But I'm familiar with it, so it wasn't an issue for us. Very, very, very familiar. Other than that, I don't really have anything else. If anyone has questions.
Anyone have any questions or follow-ups for the chief? All right, thank you. SEH, come on up.
What I've got for you today is the 2020 sanitary sewer improvements project. So this is basically the street and sanitary project we've identified on the east side of town. 3rd Street South, 3rd Street North, portions of 4th Street South, Elm, Minnesota Market, and a little bit of 4th Street North as well. At the last council meeting in July, we were approved to go into final design. And so in those 5 weeks, we put together this plan that you've got on your tables. And that's based on some of the findings we had done in our preliminary review in the months prior to that. So this is the, we'll call it the bid set, where the plans wouldn't actually be advertised until next week. So there's some minor updates, minor little QA/QC stuff we'll go through on these things before they're actually finalized. But what we'll be asking for today is for approval of plans and specifications and ordering and advertising of bids. A couple of things I can highlight for you as they pertain to the project. Our most recent cost estimate is about $2.4 million to $2.5 million in construction costs. That's pretty much right in line with what we had estimated earlier in the project and Ride the Lawn. We're thinking about that, about $2.4 million initially, so we're right in that ballpark. What we are looking at doing is starting construction still this fall, especially on the sanitary sewer, and then doing a temporary restoration for overwinter, and then primarily the street and storm construction in 2021. A little unique in that aspect, but it takes advantage of the low water levels in the river and hopefully lower groundwater levels as well, which are pretty big hurdles that can be faced in this community. So work could actually occur, I have it up till about Thanksgiving. In a good year, it could go later. In a bad year, it could go earlier. So it is the advantage here is that, yes, we're trying to get some work done this year. If for some reason it becomes 25 degrees November 1st and never warms up past that, the contractor has the ability to finish the work in 2021 instead. The biggest thing is probably getting some of the deeper sanitary sewer that's on the project. We have areas that are about 18 feet deep. Not that that's difficult for a contractor to do, but it is slow and you can encounter some things under, especially if you're taking the groundwater. So other dates, just kind of bring up, assuming that they get most or if not all the sanitary sewer done this year, we finish up in the spring. Starting up as soon as possible this year would have been a great year for spring construction. Not every year is quite like that, so assuming they start work again in May, we have substantial completion at the end of August 27th, which would be everything but the final lift of blacktop and final completion of the project on October 1st, which would be final lift of blacktop, contractor's done his work and out of town. So that's kind of what the project's at. I understand maybe a lot of you haven't seen a ton of it because we kind of went through this very quickly. Usually we'd probably take a little longer, but we did get through. I think we got everything pretty well set in the plans for a bid document. I mean, I guess if there are any questions for me, I know you've probably seen quite a bit. I think the preliminary plans were sent about a week ago. And now you have what is, I'm going to consider about 98% plans that. So that's essentially what it'll look like is the little details and the tabulations finalized.
So, go ahead, Robin.
Oh, actually, I was wondering what Tom was gonna ask something.
How much of this on North Fork, that new line? North Fork?
Yeah, North Fork does not have a sanitary sewer currently. The sanitary sewer goes in the backyards to the ballpark. What we're looking at doing on the east side of the house, yeah. So what we're looking at doing here, and that's going to be part of our homework for the winter here, is redirecting the sanitary services to go west for those homeowners on how we would do that. So we don't have that sanitary sewer, the deep sanitary sewer in the backyards, which would be quite frankly very difficult to replace. And so what we'll look at doing for the first year is to stub out the service lines out to about the curb, just past the curb, and then have a plumber come through, redirect the services from the east to go west. So wherever it comes up the house would be directed west instead. So that cost is not included in my cost estimate. We could work with the contractor that's doing the main project to do that work, but that's probably the trickiest part of the project, quite honestly, is just finding where to connect those people in and bring them west. Everything else is pretty standard construction.
You're talking just the east side of things?
Yeah, yours would still stay in the alley.
Yeah.
And then this is gravity, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Rather than this one.
Yep. That's, well, they've been talking about how to do that, but I don't know if it's 100% figured out yet.
The Valley Getter, yeah.
How to get rid of that.
Yeah, that's removed in the plan set.
Okay, yeah.
If you didn't have to figure it out, I wouldn't get plans.
Oh,
No, yeah,
And this far along.
Yeah, we took care of that. We addressed that, and
Yeah,
we were able
yeah.
to find some place to redirect that stormwater.
Yeah, so what it requires us to add a catch basin on the west side of the intersection on storm sewer east. And we identified a small, little, we call it a basin, but just on the south side of the ballpark, we'll dump the water in there. It'll travel east and into a flare-in section or a culvert, and then drain the way it does today. So it's going to be slightly different in the fact that there's going to be a curve out there, so we'll look a little bit different in that aspect. Curb and gutter occurs throughout the whole project, actually, but it'll have the same travel path. It won't increase volumes. It should be about the same rate, so we won't be flooding anything on screen.
what do you think so what you're talking about is a cost above the 2.4, 2.5, right?
Yep.
And what do you estimate that is?
About $5,000 a piece, probably somewhere in that range.
And how many
Four
is it?
houses.
4?
Yeah, and then there's one location on the north side of the berm, 3rd Street South, the crossing of the creek there. There's one home there that may have to have their service redirected as well, because they come in very close to the manhole, and the manhole's in the berm. So we gotta make sure we aren't digging into the flood protection the levee system. So that one would probably be redirected. That's probably a lot more simple. It's just one more service that would be done. That's not going to be as costly.
And, I know I asked this at the last meeting, but I'm gonna ask it again. Of the 2.5, break that down into those 3 buckets again.
Like roads, sewer, sanitary.
Yep.
Yep. I wish I had that number with me. I think we figured that, I think it was about a quarter of the cost was sanitary sewer related. I apologize, I don't have my cost estimate with me, so. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that with me to give you that.
Do you remember what you said last time?
That's what I'm trying to remember right now, because our numbers haven't really changed too much in that aspect.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize. I can get that information. I don't have that information.
And what, is there any action we need to take on this? I mean, we've already given the go-ahead to final design.
Now he wants actually the bid date and the final and everything approved. He wants this approved.
Yeah,
This approved.
so
he
some
can-
of the,
so he
some
can
of the
bid.
dates in here, we're looking at a pretty aggressive schedule trying to get work done this year.
Mhm.
So at this point, what we would need to do is advertise the project in the paper one time. Since you're not assessing any of the work, the bid opening can be as soon as 10 days after that advertisement. What we're suggesting is a Friday, September 11th bid opening. So it'll start advertising next week. Bids will be open September 11th. I did mention to Lon in the email that could be delayed to as far as September 15th, which is the day before council meets. And the advantage there, I guess, is that right now the contractors have about 16 days with the plans to come up with their costs, work with subcontractors. Historically, most contractors don't look at the plans until a week before they open, but that is on the shorter end of things. So if you wanted to give a little bit more time, the bid opening could instead be the following Monday or Tuesday. We usually don't suggest Mondays for bid openings. So it could be as late as the 15th, giving a contractor 24 hours to pull their bid in case for some reason they decide they don't want it.
You can get it, if it was the 15th, you can get everything reviewed and a recommendation for the 16th?
Yeah, I mean, unless there's something extraordinary in their bid as far as a responsible and responsive bidder, then I've yet to have that issue where a contractor has not been considered responsible or responsive. So if they don't meet those conditions, we have 1 day to determine what have to do those conditions.
Okay. Does the council have an opinion on going to the 15th, or, giving them a few extra days?
I got a question also. So, figure the deadline after you open the bids. Is that just open checkbook? Do that?
He said
I mean, if you don't have the plan in place.
he does have it in place. He didn't have it in place the other day, from what I gathered, right?
Yeah, so the plan said they have today.
Is in this plan or not?
It is.
It is.
Yes.
It wasn't in when we met the other day. It screwed up. It should have shut up.
Yeah, as of
We-
Friday last week, we added it, so.
Yeah, we just, we
I
directed them.
I
to
didn't
change
look at
the
this
Friday.
today. Robin did.
Yeah, he sent another email today about addressing, we met last week and the valley was one thing that was brought up, and we found some other space that was able to accommodate that stormwater, and Chris modified it to do away with that valley.
Yeah, we could take care of it. It's no surprise, probably going through the storm sewer is extremely shallow. I mean, it's 2.5 feet deep everywhere in this area. So that's why there's really no storm sewer out here, because it's just everything's just so shallow. But we're able to get just enough drainage in there to get rid of that. With a valley gutter through 4th Street north. So it should be a fairly smooth road going through after we're done.
So the sewers that need to be rerouted, the plan is we're gonna incur that cost. It's not gonna be placed on the homeowner.
Those 4, yes, that would be part of, it's not a special assessment.
Okay, and then my second question is, because I wasn't here last month, we're bonding for this?
Yes, that would be what I talked about today.
Okay.
That stuff from Todd.
Okay.
Yeah, not a special assessment. It's all part of that debt service plan that we talked about.
Okay.
As far as those services go, what we'll need to do is work with those homeowners, figure out where they come out the buildings. You know, in some cases, maybe you could redirect the sewer in their basement to go out a different direction. It makes things a lot easier. So those houses are only 40 feet away from the street. So it could be a short section of pipe that we can redirect internally. We just don't know what that is right now. So that'd be something I would suggest we work on soon, and perhaps there'd be an opportunity to do it with the project right away instead of having to come back next spring to get that done.
Right, but to sort of answer his question,
Yes.
you know, this comes up, you know, say you guys open the bids on the 15th, we meet on the 16th to give the final go ahead. That's where we actually incur the check, if you will, is next month. This is to go.
No, that's just, this does it.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, that just approves it. Now the bid is in process and that just approves the low bid.
Oh,
Next time approves, selects the contractor, and the contractor could start whatever.
but if they come in at, you know, 3 million, we can just
Oh,
not
yeah.
select a
If
contract.
they don't
That's
come in
my
at
point.
4, yeah, right.
Yeah, that's my point is there's still another, we can stop if this goes totally sideways. And that's next month.
But by totally sideways, though, you mean it comes in at 3.6 million.
Yeah, or yeah, something like we don't understand, yeah.
As we're trying to meet with the regular council dates, and so if for some reason we did an opening on the 15th and something's away, it just doesn't make sense, you can defer action to a future special meeting. It'll probably make it more difficult getting work done this year if it's not that meeting, or at least very shortly afterwards.
Okay.
Because as soon as we could probably do, after a contract is awarded, we go through a contract process, getting all the bonding. The contractor has to do all the bonding, they have to sign the agreement. You bring it in, you have your attorney take a look at it, make sure everything's inside of it. And after that's all done, city signs it, and you get notice to proceed. Then the contractor at that point can start ordering the materials and starting the stuff that happens. So the soonest that could probably happen is about 7 to 10 days after the bid opening. Have a notice to proceed.
Any other questions, thoughts, comments, concerns?
Well, I guess while he's here and while it was brought up on cost, and we did meet on 2 different things today with budget and finance, but I did get later today information in, and it goes to
I've got mine. I've got mine.
this is
Oh, brand new one? Okay.
You can approve the project today, but how you do it,
My password on there.
I don't want to go through, we spend an hour or a little over an hour a day going through. This front sheet is your special assessments. Your key number is the right side that deals with how much you actually are going to have based on us dropping out of LeSueur and LeSueur taking over our payments as to how much money you're going to have for debt service. And that's what that goes to Randy's question, is it how's it getting paid for? Would be a revenue bond, but it would not be any new revenue. It would be existing revenue. So 230,762 is what we're doing right now. Next year and the year after, based on projects we approved last year, would be less. But what you've got for debt service starting in 2024 is anywhere from $371,000 on down. So assuming the project, if you look then at the next page, so how does that tie in? The money, as far as, you know, why we're doing this is because of the LeSueur, going away from LeSueur and putting new sewer in to keep our costs down for those 8 blocks of area. So if you go, you know, so that's where the money is at. If you go with the first option, which would be, which Todd just put together here a couple hours ago, a 20-year option, you'd have a debt service amount of 168, somewhere between 164 and 168,000. So if you did that option, and again, these are projects way out there, of what you have for available debt service, that would leave you a little over $200,000 a year for the next 16 years to allocate wherever. If you actually wanted to spend that money up, the next part of doing that, you could spend it all up and do between 322 and 330,000 and have it paid back in 7 years. You know, so, but to go to the question of, you know, how is this paid for and where it comes from, it's coming from what already has been, it's coming from what the residents have been and are paying for sewer right now. And you'll have to decide, you don't have to decide that at this minute, but you're gonna have to decide how long a term you wanna take that out if you go through this financing process.
And if we don't do it, our operational costs will go up immensely because of the I&I issue.
Well, and plus you spend 200 and a couple hundred, you know, a lot of money for these guys to get this far.
Yeah, so, yep, okay. All right, is there any other discussion? All right, we'll be looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
All right, I got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion is second. Any other discussion?
I do have a little bit more discussion. I want the Elm Street issue still addressed with the pipe size and the
Take
slope.
a second look at it. We're so tied into this project. The sanitary sewer that's out there today is very flat. For how much elevation you have coming down the hill, it comes in way deeper than I would expect it to on the upstream end. So basically from one end of the project to the other project, most of the pipe has 3 inches of fall every 100 feet. So it's pretty flat.
Just for that stretch, would it make
Yep.
sense to go from 8-inch then to 10-inch for that?
Yeah, it looks like there's enough coming into it that'll something. So if we go too flat a pipe, it starts building rags and debris and can't maintain itself, and you see it come through and jet it and clean it, all that stuff. But it looks like there's enough coming in from behind it to be able to push through without having to be a significant issue.
At 8-inch.
With what we ended with the 10-inch on the upstream end, yeah.
Okay, because it's just still 8-inch on here, but
Yeah, I think
On the
we
Elm Street one.
should have the 10 there, yeah.
I'm
Yeah, but no-
seeing 8 here.
Oh, okay.
But,
Well, the one stretch is 8-inch at 0.37, which is close enough
okay.
to minimum grade. But the rest of it is a little steeper, so, or a little flatter, I'm sorry, which is a 10-inch. So there's only one section with 8-inch pipe on Elm.
And then Elm Street.
Yes, sorry, and the
Okay.
rest of it, 4th Street South should be 10.
Yeah, so do you think there'd be a big cost difference if we change that? I mean, we can
There
talk
wouldn't be
about it
much
more.
cost, but there probably wouldn't be much benefit necessarily either, because there's 8-inch coming off 93, and so we don't want to
Oh, okay.
increase the pipe size.
Okay. Got it. All right. I guess that can be, is that part of the further QA and QC discussion that you addressed in your email?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'll just talk to you about that separately then. I
Sure,
guess. Okay.
sure.
Thank you.
And I guess with your action too, would be confirming what date you'd like to have the bid opening. It could be the 11th, and we always could, we're having contractors say, I don't have time to do this, we can do an addendum changing it to a later date, but if you want to just go with a later date now too. So that's the other thing that should be discussed with the resolution.
Is the 11th or the 15th is what we're looking at right now?
Yeah.
Or even
resolution
later.
I sent to Lon earlier says the 11th, but if you want it to be later, and I understand, I mean, it's just how much time do we have to process the bids, and we can get it done in a day.
What do you think?
Seems like the 11th is fine, right?
Okay. All right. All right, so we got a motion and a second to give the green light with the 11th as a date. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Same sign. All right, thank you. All right, city attorney.
Thanks,
Well,
Chris.
Well, as you all know, I've not been to a city council meeting for a really long time. And I have become aware that there has been some contention between mayor and council members on a number of topics. Not unusual on a council, but I wanted to come here and just observe and be available If you find yourselves wandering from the agenda and into off topics today. So largely, I'm just here to observe.
Okay, any questions for city attorney? Okay.
Did someone ask you specifically to come?
I'm sorry.
Did someone ask you specifically to come to the meeting tonight?
Did somebody ask me?
Yeah.
Lon did suggest that I might want to be here today.
Okay. Any insight, Lon? Just a suggestion.
Basically what she said.
That there's contention between the council and the mayor.
Well, I don't want to get her in the election Facebook post on the Henderson Independent is basically the reference that we talked about. And the withdrawal and the non-withdrawal and that kind of stuff.
Not familiar.
Well, the only thing I'm aware of is the letter to of the packets that the four of you signed, and it was addressed to me and Lon.
I think he's talking about a Henderson Independent Facebook post.
So,
Is
yes.
what it sounds like you're talking about to me,
Yes.
which was posted by Mayor Many. So I'm assuming you know about that.
Yeah. So yeah.
I'm not on Facebook, so
I'm not either.
Yeah.
But
So
just keep me.
yeah.
I'm at a bit of a loss. I mean, I think asking for meeting minutes beforehand was just a procedural thing, which I think is okay.
No, that kind of stuff is laziness on my part. You know, that wasn't. It was more. There's internally, and I don't know how much we want to. If you want to get into some of the stuff that I'm getting on text and information and things back and forth from the group in general, doesn't seem like it's that everybody's on the same page.
Well, I think we all have different opinions. I wouldn't say that we're not necessarily not all on the same page.
Then I'm misreading, and that's my problem. That's my fault.
No, I'm not saying it's your fault.
Or that there's anything bad about it.
You know, and I don't know, are we on this topic?
I didn't think I guess we are now. I didn't think so.
You know, have I thought over the last couple of years, could there have been a little better communication sometimes? Yeah. But I mean, and that was the reason that I signed that letter asking for the packet on Friday, the Friday before. I mean, when I worked for the police department here, we delivered them the Friday night before to the house of the council people. I don't think that's out of line for us to be looking at it over the weekend and coming up with an opinion on how we want to proceed or how we want to express our opinion on something.
Yeah, I think it's responsible to be prepared. And I think part of that is having the meeting packet. It's really challenging to be prepared without all of the information.
And that would be on my end too. I mean, it's being as informed as I can be before I walk in, and if on my end I'm here for another 4 meetings, but if I know what I'm walking into when I walk into a meeting, it's always beneficial, and I just think it's good practice. But on my end, you know, if we get the meeting packet a few days ahead, you know, in this case 5 days ahead, I think that's just, you know, to me, then the problem's taken care of. So, you know, I guess on my end, if I look to the past 3.5 years I've been on the council, we've only had a few votes that were 3-2, or, you know, we've always managed to come to consensus.
I guess my response to that is that's true. The letter had nothing to do with me talking to Allison.
Okay.
It may, from the mayor's perspective, it had zero to do with it. What I'm in my almost 40 years of doing this, my political read, while is not the same today as it was a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago. And that's the packet part is, and also the city, in my opinion, the city attorney at some points probably should be at a meeting from time to time to get a pulse on what's going on. Other issues that aren't necessarily part of what we're talking about today, like some law enforcement things, some rental things, some our vacancy ordinances, things like that that have to run through the city attorney, are things that may or may not have been brought up tonight, depending on whether or not the city attorney was here. So, how far you want to, how far?
Like I said, I'm rather on my end, and me personally, I'm not on Facebook, so I have no idea what you're referencing there. And I'm just like, I'm not looking at me as being contentious towards any of you. That's my position. Do I agree with you all the time? Do I agree with you all the time? You know. But at the end of the day, I still respect all of you. So that's my official statement, and I haven't, despite many people's attempts at times to have me maybe slander one person or another, that's not an area that I want to go to. So,
if I may, it is important for your city attorney to occasionally show up at these, in this case by invitation, but I really should be here, especially when you're considering certain things. I know that you were talking about vacant lot issues. That was never run by me at all, and yet you passed it. And I know you're looking at rental licensing. Again, I hope that you know that you should really have that pass through the city attorney first before any actions are taken. These are things that I wasn't even aware of that the city was considering until, well, after the vacant lot, or the vacant, whatever you want to call it, the unoccupied lot ordinance or whatever it was. So I want to be sure you do invite me to the meetings occasionally if you think there's a topic that you're considering that I could be helpful with. So.
Well, I'm going to reply to that. And I am appalled because this council was told that everything was run past you.
That what was?
Everything. Those two issues were run past you. And as a result of you giving your blessing, they were being presented to this council.
I have never ever seen the vacant lot thing ever.
Am I wrong in saying that we were told that?
I don't remember that specifically. I'd have to go watch the recording, honestly.
I remember.
I actually thought he said it was your wording.
Yes.
Or it was your wording for the
rental license.
The ordinance, yes.
No, the rental thing, Alex came to me, I think in May, early May, and said, here's this rental licensing thing that law enforcement is considering. We did go through it, and I made a bunch of recommendations for changes. I've never seen it again, ever. So I have no idea what it looks like now, because I didn't even know that it was, well, I don't think it's been brought to the council. But I know I have never looked at it again.
It was only brought here once, and we haven't taken it up
Right.
since.
But it's one of those things that I've never looked at a final draft of anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know that it was a final draft that was presented either, but a starting point of a discussion. But yeah, we've never taken it up since.
Okay, well, that's good,
It was really
as far
a
as that
first
vacant
read.
lot thing goes.
Well, no, it was not a first
It wasn't even a first read.
But it was implied that we should have a first reading that night.
And we didn't.
And we did not.
Right.
And we were also told that the city attorney had given her blessing on it.
No, well, that isn't true.
So. Yeah.
Unless there was a misunderstanding between Alex and me.
Yeah, could have
But
been.
because I gave a number of recommendations and never saw anything second draft.
Yeah, and what we saw, we don't know if it incorporated what you're talking about. But I think at the end of the day, I think you're right. Would it be handy to have you around more? Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's essentially what I'm taking out of this discussion here is, yeah, it'd be nice to have you around a little bit more on those kinds of things to keep us from stepping in it, for sure. So.
Yeah, and I'll still walk away from this meeting not understanding contention between us. So it's not my intent. And if somebody's reading further into it, check in, please. But it's not my, I'm just speaking for myself. And said everything I'm going to say, but I'm not on Facebook, so I'm not real sure. Facebook and or the letter. I'll own the letter because I signed it.
The letter, from my perspective, has got less than zero to do with anything that I.
But Paul said it. That's why just let me finish.
Okay, sorry.
I referenced the two things that were presented by you, both of you. And I'm just saying what I'm saying as to why Allison was here, and you said Facebook, you said letter. So,
but what I'm saying is,
right.
I heard what the letter had nothing to do with.
But it was brought up, so that's why I'm responding to that.
You okay? Any other discussion? Okay. Anything else from you?
No.
Okay. All right, sounds good. All right, city administrator.
Still here. The CARES thing, the city did get about $65,000. We're talking about how we're going to split that up or what we're going to use it for. But one thing that's come out of this, that Sibley County has got a plan, and the question is, do you guys want to get into this plan, or do you want to support this application process that they've got here and take applications here at the city office, or not?
Well, my understanding is the plan is that we can either say that we're going to take the applications, or that we can just go ahead and pass them on to the county, and that their EDA group will be, or not their EDA group, but some, I don't know, they have a specific group. They have a group anyway that has like done grant approvals for other.
My opinion on it is generally Henderson does pretty well when we're left to our own devices, and when we've been involved in partnerships, we ultimately try to dissolve them because of that reason. So I would lean toward being happy to pass things along to their thing, and then doing our own thing. But I'm certainly open to any other thoughts you guys have on it.
So would they take our funds? Is that the deal?
If we offer it to them, they take them all.
Yes.
Sure.
That's the thing, is we put all of our things into a pot and then they decide, versus we keep our money and we decide.
So to clarify, we give them the money and potentially more or potentially less or the same amount would come back to Henderson.
Correct.
So I actually had a conversation with John Glazinski, and I don't think that's the case.
No.
Basically, the county takes anything that we don't spend of the $65,000, they recoup anyway. So if we can't prove that we have COVID eligible funds up to that amount, then they'll recoup it. It goes to the county. But the county, from what John said in a conference, a Zoom meeting, public, was that they've received substantial funds as a county. They're not going to use it for, they're kind of being really conservative with their salary, like putting it towards the salaries for their employees, that, because the rule says that if you had it budgeted already, you're not supposed to use COVID for it, right? COVID funds for it. And so my understanding, and speaking with John directly, is like they have a substantial amount of funds available, and that they think that they'll have a lot left over after they take care of their county expenses, and that they'd like to distribute it to businesses. So that's what.
Right, and so a Henderson business could go straight to them anyway.
Right, which
Yeah.
I don't think is a bad deal
Yeah.
anyway. So yes, back to the actual point of this process, I think that their it says the revolving loan committee would review the applications, and I'm fine with deferring that to them. But I don't think it's a program that we should be afraid of.
It was originally through the Minnesota Employment and Economic Development Grant that was offered to businesses, and help me, correct me, Jeff, if I'm off here. And then Sibley County then got funds. So the state was doing like a larger scale, and the county then said, because of the applications were, crazy. So then the county got their own going. So it's not, it's money that's already there. It's not coming out of our own.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
Lon,
I agree.
So Lon, what's your question? Because she's talking about an independent fund, which doesn't make sense why we would talk about it then.
But we're also talking about if we have leftover from ours, are we gonna send it to the county?
Well, she's saying they get it anyway.
Yeah, John said that we don't have a choice in that. But Lon and I agree, when I looked at the numbers, it looks like we'll probably have enough funds eligible for that.
Right.
So I doubt that we'll have
Well,
any
in
left over.
25 or fewer, you have the school, Barb, Roadhouse, they probably don't qualify.
For 25 or fewer employees, is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah, it's 25 or fewer. So there isn't a whole lot. That shuts off,
You're right. So that's
the
full
three
time though.
parts of Main Street.
That's 25 full time though.
Is it full time?
Yeah. So I think they actually might be eligible. But
The two questions that John is asking, when you look at, one, is the city going to have its own program?
Right,
And by own program, he means not are we going to reimburse salaries or whatever, or is the city going to establish, which it can, its own economic development or nonprofit loan program? If it is, then if it's going to establish that, then why don't you then we're going to streamline applications, and we're just going to do one application, and you could maybe pool that with the county funds. If the city's not, then he needs to know that as well. And then, as Robin says, if the city doesn't spend it, 64,000 whatever, then they'll get whatever is left on the end. It's really, do you give them a budget up front from Henderson, which says X amount of money of that 65,000 to 64.8 is going to go toward economic development, or do you not?
I think he's just asking if we're running our own program, and the answer is no.
Which is an economic. He's economic development. Are we running our own economic development program?
Okay, so that's the first question.
Right. Second question is, if you're not, if he's got that here, but in the email, if you're not, do you want to give to our program?
I don't see.
It doesn't say that here, no, but it says that in his other requests, that's what some of the joint meetings were about. So yeah, but if you don't want to, that's fine. I'm not saying you have to.
I think that we should open it for our businesses to go directly there. I just don't agree with your assessment that it's going to cost us money. I get, that's the difference.
It will if you allocate some of your money to there, which you can do.
Okay. But
you could decide today to take all $65,000 of that and put it into economic development.
Right, and why would we do that? They have money that they're saying is available right now without us contributing.
But you haven't done we haven't done anything with it yet. And at that point, I was saying, we'll wait until the middle of September and see how things shake out. Well, he wants to know before our next city council meeting if Henderson, what's Henderson doing?
Well, my position is, no, we're not going to take our own applications. And two, no, we're not giving them any part of that money.
Simple enough.
I too agree, it should stay.
That's what I remember
Solely.
us talking about from last month and supporting community organizations.
Yes.
I guess I missed it. So I guess I didn't, what you're saying, I don't, what did you say? No, we're not taking applications, and no, we're not.
Locally, I mean, if somebody wants to apply for county funds, that's fine, apply through the county. But we're not going to take applications locally from businesses. And no, we're not going to give them any of our COVID funds unless we don't use them up, and we have to.
Right, we're not doing our own program. I mean, that's
Right.
the question, and I agree.
Okay, if
that
we're not
might
doing
be
our
the
own
most
program, how do we get it to our local organizations?
We're not doing an economic development.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Because it doesn't mean he deals with economic development, loaning to, so he's got a one-stop, one-shop process that if Roadhouse or somebody wants to, whatever, if you meet the threshold, you apply to that one-stop shop. He's already got his program approved by the county board. So he's asking, is the city are they gonna do a program? And the answer, what I'm hearing is, no, we're not gonna do a program. Or we're not gonna do an economic development program. We're gonna try to spend our COVID money, yes, but we're not gonna do a program that matches up with the Sibley County EDA.
Right. So how we're getting it to our local organizations is not fall under economic development.
Right. It's not gonna fall under the economic development application that Sibley County has got put together.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Right.
there may be some economic development stuff once we have our next meeting or whatever that's laid out, that's given to economic, but that's gonna be then a Henderson program, right? And it's not gonna tie to the Sibley County program.
I'll make that a motion.
Okay, we got a motion, I get a second.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. All right.
Activity report. Unless Jim's got something, I've got nothing on the levy stuff. She's expected supposed to be here sometime in
So
September.
I can add that I'm continuing to work with Bruce on fiscal control on the levy. So we've been communicating.
The signs, there's some of them that are put up. I think Steve is gonna sometime by the fall put the rest of the street signs up, or else if Second Serve is here for some more, I guess they will. Danny did some blacktop work. You got some bills in there for that. Compost, there has been cameras installed. Snow removal, nothing for 2020. Allison's Park, nothing as far as new programs. We're still using our online registration system. Nothing on community building. Boat landing right now that with Bruce out, Danny is taking care of it. Pump house, still working on trying to get information back from FEMA on the $15,000 that's held up with them. It's in review. I haven't heard anything now this week anyway. Pond easements are done on Maple Ridge. I don't know if if this wants to get addressed. No, we're working on doing some stuff with the SCADA system at some point in the future. And while that's on here, I guess I'll let the personnel address what's going on with the sewer operation stuff. Wingnut told me today he's got the railing made and the paint's waiting to dry and it's all ready to go. So we'll see on the railing. Okay, ordinances, yeah, the policy, they got sent into the league, finance plan submitted. We basically met today, went through some of that finance plan. You see one kind of page of it, but with hopefully, well, by the September meeting, all that information will be submitted. ISG permit, those extensions and everything, Tara has got them installed. And the MetroNet, that's just a thing from the Jaguar now is MetroNet. Anything else?
I have a question about MetroNet because I've been asked this several times. Do we have a current contract with MediaCom? A franchise contract?
We have a franchise agreement with them. Yep.
We do. Till when? No, you know, just rough estimate if you.
Until they want to get out, but it's not none of those contracts are exclusive. We can have as many as we want.
Oh, okay. So if because people keep asking in town about Jaguar or now MetroNet, but I mean, if they can get enough people together, they can.
And this was not MetroNet, but what Jaguar said was they're not ready. This was 3 years ago. But they weren't ready to do a franchise agreement with Henderson and bring their other services in. The internet they would deal with because that's not regulated. But while it didn't seem, based on that discussion, that the city regulations were an issue, but apparently it's some kind of PUC issue that they have to get different permissions, not only from the city, but from some higher, whether it's state PUC or who it is. So they have to have a plan together and put all the information in, and apparently make sure they can serve all the residents rather than just doing them piecemeal.
Okay, thanks.
There was quite a few people today that are concerned as to who, when, and what is going on with the car crew's garbage now, because the garbages are not being emptied, which I understand that, you know, that Bruce is off, but there needs to be
I didn't even think about it. I'll go pick it up.
because it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm. You know,
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting, like the car cruise, when it was an official car cruise at 8, I felt like at 8 it ended and everybody left, and now without the official car cruise, it kind of just lingers. It, like last night I was on a walk, it was really late. Lots of people out still. Have you noticed that? But maybe you're not out at 8.
I wasn't, I had a meeting last night, but there was a lot parked in the yellow. It was hard getting around town.
I mean, based on my observation, I think it's getting to the point where it's better to just officially hold one and have those boundaries in place, or else I think, and that's one of the things we talked about. It hadn't been an issue, you know, so you can't stop people from showing up, you know, but it's getting busier and busier, and I doubt it will stop. But
What's the attorney's opinion on that? What's the attorney's opinion on that?
Well, part of what I'm hearing is because I don't have the hearing aids in, but you're talking about the not roll-ins.
Not roll-ins and yeah, correct. Not roll-ins, but are we better off having regulated roll-ins because the roll-ins aren't regulated and it's not stopping and it's growing?
I don't know how you would regulate the roll-ins based on the number of people. Because when the roll-ins are official, the attendance is huge. And honestly, I don't think you can actually regulate according to the COVID guidelines at that point. Because of the massive number of people on the street. Now, I've noticed that the cars are kind of congregating in this parking lot, but they're also on the street as well. And I know that there's food trucks. I have not been around. I'm usually out of my office by 4, so I'm not around when the majority of people are here. So I have not actually personally witnessed how bad it is right now. I don't know if the city wants to get into having an official sponsored roll-in and then have the official duty of being absolutely certain that it's being, monitored correctly.
Well, and that's where we landed, is we're
I
just
don't
leaving it
think you
alone.
can.
So,
I mean, there's nothing, you can't prevent, I mean, people can come and park their cars legally anywhere, and other people can come and look at them. And if at some point law enforcement says, you people are not socially distanced, you vendors are not appropriately asking your customers to be socially distanced, all of those things, that stuff can get shut down, people can be ticketed for that. But I don't know, it's a conundrum, and I'm not sure if you want to be official in endorsing it, or if you just want to unofficially say, we'll try to keep, violations at a minimum. By at minimum, law enforcement presence on Tuesdays.
so here's a question for you, and this is a procedural one. This topic is not actually on our agenda. Should we be? This topic is not actually on our agenda. Should we be discussing this at this length?
I mean, technically not.
Okay.
Here's the thing about I understand that a letter was sent and signed by members about how they wanted to limit the council meetings to only what's on the agenda. That's contrary to what your actual ordinance says, which the ordinance says the agenda should be respected, but if something comes up that you want to talk about, you can by unanimous vote on right now determine that you want to talk about it because it's important enough, even though it's not on the agenda. So it's up to you.
Well, I'll make a motion that we talk about it.
I'll second it.
All right,
Did
got
we
a motion.
talk about the roll-in?
Got a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? Well, considering that the roll-ins don't know that they're going to be talked about, do you think it's fair that we bring it up, considering that we're only 2 weeks away from basically the end of summer?
Well, maybe we're talking about the traffic on Tuesday.
Correct.
Because that's going to continue, regardless of if we talk about it or not.
Yeah, got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Nay. All right.
What did we just decide?
That we're not going to talk about the roll-ins. Because I personally think if we're going to talk, I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but if we're going to talk about the roll-ins, it'd be better to have a representative here. And if he comes back, I'll change my vote and we'll talk about it, because I think that's important. In addition, I also think it's important to have Dimitri, our police chief, a part of that same discussion. So, because ultimately that's where it's going to end up landing, and that's why I think we should hold off on that discussion until we have the appropriate parties who are going to actually enforce it one way or the other. Because without that, we're not having a complete discussion of the impacts.
Well, I think the car cruise is out. I mean, the car cruise committee, they've already stated, we've already decided that is out. And due to the COVID guidelines, we cannot have that.
Is that what they said?
Well,
Well,
now Jeff is
it
here.
was here.
That we said that, yeah.
And the car cruise was here. Yes, Jeff was here and represented them. And we said it's just not possible. Plus the car cruise members, due to COVID, aren't willing, because a lot of them are in the age bracket or health reasons, or, children, grandchildren, they just decided no.
That's a good point.
So we need the police chief here to tell him if they're parked on the yellow, he needs to address it, because we're having parking complaints.
Yeah, and is it appropriate to either direct the administrator to have that conversation with him, or is it?
No, you just go. Just get him. Can he come
Or
back?
just ask him to return?
Yeah, see if he can come back.
I think I just have one bit to add to this discussion, actually 2 bits. I'm in the same spot that I was when we talked about it last spring, that I believe the roll-ins in the future are more vital to our tourism, to our dollars, and I want to protect that. I want to see the roll-ins next summer. I want to see the however many hundreds. Am I speaking loud enough for you?
No, I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
You're-
My position is that the roll-ins are vital to our economy, and I want to protect them. I want to protect them for the future. So having some sort of law enforcement presence in town to make sure people aren't grandstanding, right, you know, behaving in a way that would, you know, cause an accident, cause an injury, and give the Henderson roll-in a bad name. So I know we can't stop people from coming here, and I'm sure our businesses, most of our businesses, appreciate it. I don't know, maybe all of them appreciate the revenue that's coming back in.
And they need it.
And I don't want to stand in the way of that. I think having some sort of presence and regulation to something like parking in yellow spaces or traffic control, like it's hard getting across Main Street. I just did it last night, and a kid runs out in front of a car, they can't see it. Our intersections are hard to see through. So having some sort of regulation when we have a street full of people seems good to me. That hasn't changed. My position hasn't changed since we talked about this in April or May. The only comment that I can tell you I get from a lot of people are, where are the masks? I don't know if that's something you can regulate on Main Street, but it's giving us, Henderson, a not positive image from people in town. Some people in town, but a lot of people out of town too. And I'm hearing, those are the comments I'm hearing. Jeez. So that would be my only discussion, that we have to be aware of. We can't just look away.
Who's he going with that?
Yes.
I think the roll-in group did an awesome job of parking vehicles properly so that you could see at intersections, and making sure that they weren't parked on the yellow. Now it just seems like they're parking all over the place.
Mhm.
All right. Suppose
Should we
must
move
not
that
have been in his
to,
office, huh?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll hit that when he gets back, I guess. All right. Anything else from you?
No.
Okay. All right. City Council.
Here it comes. Maybe.
All right, well, I think he's close. Randy, you want to make that motion again?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we open discussion on the roll-ins and parking.
I'll second it.
Almost a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Excellent. Just in time. All right, we are talking about Tuesday nights and the roll-ins. And initially, Janet brought up the garbage concern, which was addressed. Lon's going to do it in Bruce's absence. And then who was it? Did you bring it up, or who brought up the concern about the roll-in crowd? Robin, was it you?
I said that the crowds
Okay.
disperse
All right.
the way that they used to. I didn't.
Oh
say
yeah,
it
that's
necessarily
right. Okay, yeah, you said that. Now that the roll-ins are not official, people just seem to be loitering longer, and then I think Randy brought up, then they're parking basically in the yellow. And I'm just bringing up both Jeff and Dimitri. And then we said, should we discuss it? The four council members said yes. I said no, because I thought we needed both of you here to discuss it. And so now you are both here, and now I'm cool with discussing it because I think we can have a comprehensive conversation around it now in terms of what that means and those kinds of things. So the thing, you know, you brought up masks as an issue. Robin, you brought up, you know, just the,
Can I
all right, okay.
make sure I brought up that people in town have approached me and from outside of town. So in town saying, I don't feel good about walking down Main Street on a Tuesday night. People from outside of town saying, people in Henderson don't believe in masks. I realize it's outside and I don't know how you would enforce that. I brought that up as just a point of, this is an image that we have. So it wasn't, I don't know how Dimitri would enforce outside mask wearing. Outside of maybe
Well,
somebody.
I mean, isn't the law that if you can't socially distance 6 feet apart, you should be wearing a mask, even outside?
And I thought the law was indoors, but I might be wrong.
But well, outdoors you can socially distance, but if you're not doing that, you wear a mask. At least up in the metro area, that's what you see in parks. If people are congregating, they're wearing masks. If they can't stay 6 feet apart or whatever. And I don't know how we would even begin to enforce that kind of thing.
And I agree with you. I don't know how you enforce that. I'm just bringing up that as something that citizens and people outside of town have observed.
Well, I mean, I can advise that the loudspeakers and the masks. It's one of the things we can do. Yeah, other than that,
Okay.
it's going to be difficult to run after everybody who's not wearing masks.
Right. I'm saying that as maybe I'm not saying Dimitri, have your citation book out. I don't even know if you can give a citation for that. I suppose you can.
Okay. So Jeff, what were you going to add?
I would encourage the businesses, they need to encourage their customers. That's right. Starts and stops. Businesses got to get it out of most people. You know, we wear this. When they get outside, it's going to be really tough. Maybe they'll just be more aware of it. There should be at least social distancing awareness.
Well, I guess when this came up last time, I asked if we could put signs where people congregate requesting distancing. Do you recall this? And those signs went up in really obscure places where people don't actually congregate, such as the Well House door. And so maybe signs that are where people actually gather would be a system also. It makes it less uncomfortable for the businesses to make requests of their
What was that thing about garbage?
Oh, and the garbage isn't getting
Oh,
picked up.
Bruce is on leave right now, and so he would normally go collect the garbage, but Lon's going to take that up. That's all. That's all.
I also think the businesses absolutely can help on this time and pick up some of the garbage too. We did that when I was enrolled. By the way, we don't want to call this.
No, and that's part of the issue is it's not a roll-in. It's people are coming anyway. So what do you do about that? You know.
But you can clearly see when there isn't an organized effort what's going on. I absolutely agree with everything you said. I've seen all of it.
The intersections seem, and people have expressed this to me, seem difficult to cross, Dimitri, because they're parking in the yellow. And personally, I think our intersections are terrible to begin with, to try and cross, especially the one down by Tootie's.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get somebody parked in the yellow, it just contributes more to that difficulty.
Yeah, we'll thank you for bringing it up.
I guess ultimately that was really my point, Jeff, was that it's really interesting how well regulated they were by the committee and how much it's changed since there is no committee presence, which is understandable that there can't be. So, but that was.
Right, and so any of that falls back squarely on the city then in our law enforcement, which you've just brought up. And, you know, is there anything else? You know, so for example, if people are going to show up, I mean, we can't barricade the town.
Right.
Do we ask Dimitri to make sure he's got 2 officers on, knowing that people are here, so they're going to have to move people, or I don't know. What are we asking of our own police department, knowing that people are going to show up, knowing that there is no help from the roll-ins because they technically aren't happening?
I think he's got a staff, however he feels he's got a staff.
Okay.
I think so far to answer your question, I don't think there is a need for it as of now. The crowds became bigger and bigger, but I think they're manageable for one officer at this point. If there is any issue, I can have somebody standby if we have to, if we get, you know, just all of a sudden, thousands of people show up or something like that.
Okay.
I can always rely on somebody to come out.
I think it's the same thing I was saying in May or April, whenever we talked about this last, that just making sure, like, I guess my observation, Dimitri, is I haven't seen a lot of law enforcement presence during the past maybe month and a half to 2 months as it's grown. And I think that would help. Even if you have an officer on standby, great. Being around Main Street during that time, I think would help. That's my suggestion, and it's just what I see. I agree with Robin's point that seeing a presence of people hanging out longer, and just there's a different, to me, and I don't know how to say this other than a gut feeling that something feels different. And it's a total kudos to your crew and the amount of work that went into the regulation of it. And so we went from having a lot, 15 volunteers plus extra law enforcement to not a lot. And to me, that just seems to be still setting us up for the potential for something not good to happen.
And I think what you're talking about in terms of people sticking around before, so because the committee, they were giving the social cues, it's time to go home by picking up the cones and turning the music off.
Yep.
You know, those social cues are just not there, and so that's what I think you're seeing. So.
And without, if we let it continue, something bad could happen. I don't want that to happen because of how much investment and how much time and energy is been put in by the committee.
So let me ask you, when you say if we let that continue, what are we letting continue?
I think
that we could be stopping.
I think what I said, an increased. I don't think it's out of line to have. You've been an advocate of all staff. I think making sure that there's a presence of at least one officer in the Main Street area the whole time on a Tuesday, and even going out and talking to people, educating people, welcoming them. It's not. I'm not there to say that you have to be. Just a presence, welcoming people to Henderson, talking about it. If you see a car parking in the yellow, don't park in the yellow. That's what I think that would help. So that's my suggestion. That's what.
And that makes sense. I was just wondering what you thought we were allowing to continue. That we, you know what I mean? You said I didn't know we were allowing anything.
So the increase, the increased times. I think another thing is what Randy referenced, the difficulty in just walking across the street, across 19 right now.
No, I agree. I'm just saying, what are we doing that's allowing you know what I mean? It's
but I think I'm saying we are directing law enforcement. That's my suggestion. That's what I'm saying. By not giving some direction, I think we are culpable. Make sense?
Yes, I disagree, but
you hear my message.
Yeah, no, because I agree. I've been stuck at those intersections a ton. I saw a kid damn near get run over on his big wheel just last night. He just darted across the street, and it's like, where's that kid? or, you know, who knows? But yeah, no, it's, I think it's more dangerous now than any other time it's been, because there is a lack of organization around it. But, you know, if we provide organization, all of a sudden we're endorsing it, and that's a problem too. So it's like, well, you know, so that's where it's like, well, hopefully no one gets run over, you know, so we can, you know, adhere to the emergency powers, you know, kind of a thing. So, because I don't know, and I don't think anyone has the answer, you know, because for every person that tells you they're against the masks and those kinds of things, there's 500 people on Main Street without them saying they disagree with that, you
Right.
know. So it's like, I don't, there is no right answer is the problem, but so.
I guess that's why we have to defer to the executive order on some things, is because whether, like, no matter how you feel about it, there is a law around it, and we are culpable when we willfully neglect to enforce it or direct our law enforcement not to enforce it, whatever happens. So I agree with everything Jim said.
So are we directing then, or are you suggesting that we should direct all the emergency orders be enforced by Dimitri? Like social distancing on the sidewalk? And that's, so that's what I'm saying.
Are
That's
you
what,
asking me if I'm asking him not to enforce any executive orders? I don't think that would be even legal for me to do that.
no, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, I agree with Jim too. So, but what Dimitri has to be clear on, you know, what we're actively saying.
I don't think it's my responsibility to describe the law to our law enforcement. Do you?
Okay.
No, and, but if the council, actually, if the public generally wants, the law enforcement to enforce the current, COVID directives, regarding social distancing and mask wearing and all that kind of stuff, he's gonna need a whole lot more people. A whole lot more people. And the suggestion that the businesses should hold some responsibility for monitoring the areas in front of their places is very true. I mean, they're making money with these people coming into town, and they ought, you know, the council ought to be able to say to these, or through the chamber or whatever, keep track of the people that are outside your doors. Go out there and tell them, spread out, or whatever. Dimitri does not have the force necessary to monitor the kind of crowds that are coming into town. Now, as I said, I haven't been here for the non-official stuff, so I don't know how the crowd compares to when they were official, which was enormous. But there were a lot of people assisting at that point. But I guess he should be enforcing. I mean, there should be an effort by law enforcement. Most particularly, there should be ticketing in the yellow. If their car's parked in the yellow, illegal parking, I mean, parking tickets ought to be issued at that point. Because that really that poses a very real physical threat to, well, anyone who's trying to cross the street. Because I agree, it's a terrible situation trying to cross 19 with cars parked right up to the edge. But no, it's not up to you to tell law enforcement to do its job. But when you're saying, the idea of being present is very important. I think that Dimitri's going to have to make more effort with his officers on Tuesdays to be out and about the scene. And I think businesses have to be invited to help monitor the distancing and the mask wear.
Thank you.
I'd like to add that we had the meeting during this COVID virus, and there was chiefs of police, the sheriff, our county attorney, our county assistant attorney, and what was decided is that we are not going to enforce in this county social distancing. We can educate people, just like the order from the government says. The role of law enforcement is to go and educate. If there is a consistent effort or action from certain people repeated action. Then, only then it will be enforced. So to answer your question, this was discussed with the county attorney, and unfortunately, that's what the answer was. We're not enforcing social distance. We're educating people, we're going to them, we're talking. But as far as taking some kind of law enforcement action, it's only for repeated offenders. And even then, it's going to be a report reading and sent to the county attorney for review. So we're not initiating any citation. That's what was decided.
And that's not, in support of that, I would say that that's not just Sibley County.
Right.
That directive actually has also come down from the Department of Public Safety. Yeah.
Pretty much across the country.
And
So this, as I said, we'll definitely try to educate people and approach them and kind of ask them to maintain social distance, and the sidewalks are kind of narrow here in town. There's a lot of businesses right next to each other. People like to be outside when the weather's nice, so we will have those issues. It's just unavoidable.
I think on my end,
as far as of course, we can have presence. That's not a problem.
That would.
Jim, that's not going to be a problem. We can have presence. During on Tuesdays, again, depending on the weather. If the weather is bad, no one's going to be here, so it depends on the weather and such. And enforced parking, that's not a problem.
Right, and again, there's in no way am I suggesting that you have a giant citation booklet for everybody trying to create a contentious relationship with people coming to our town. There's no way. What Allison captured is that just having an enhanced presence, and then in addition, talking to the businesses and saying, hey, help us out, because what you described with the big wheel is exactly what I've played out in my mind, is that someone darts out into the street.
Mm-hmm.
It's challenging for me to get across the street right now on a Tuesday.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay, all right, thanks for coming back. Thanks, Jeff. All right, City Council, personnel. Robin and I met with Police Chief, Officer Alex, James Kraler, our water superintendent, and Lon was there as well, just kind of review what we approved before, in terms of the police department taking on the water duties of monitoring and those kinds of things, and we're basically got a follow-up of how it's working. Seems to be working a-okay. Let's see, the one thing I think we probably landed, and Rob would add to this, where I'm forgetting, is I think we were a little more on the gas going forward with the SCADA system. And then during this meeting, it sounds like we can slow down on that to just make sure we get it right, because the ultimate cost is going to be between, more than 50, maybe even around 70, 80. It'll be robust in its features and monitoring and everything else, where you wouldn't even need to be doing some of these inspections in person. But based on our setup right now, we can slow down and make sure that we get that set up correctly, built and bid. Robin, you know more about that stuff than I do, but
you're representing it well.
Yeah. So, but so that's kind of where we landed. We talked about Alex is the one doing the monitoring, encouraging him to go get his license. What is it? What are they called?
It's like a wastewater operator.
Yeah, and so that's what we've done in the history of recent history for Henderson. So Eric Carroll's had his, when he was doing it, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the folks. Nick Pollock got his, you know, and so this would just be a continuation of go get that, you know, and how you go about doing that is 6 months of experience of basically doing it. You do some studying and then you go in for the tests, and that helps us to become more self-sufficient. And then the last thing was that allowed us to punt a little further on the SCADA system was an upgraded monitoring thing out on a pump station. So that was our last step to be completely separated from LeSueur. So that was kind of the final thing that we needed to do. So anyway, anything else to add there?
Randy and Jim probably remember a lot of talk about that antenna failing, and
Yep.
so they're replacing it again.
Not transmitting.
Yes, and so that should allow James to get the communication directly, because right now we're directing it to LeSueur and then to James. So
yeah.
So that was, we kind of thought maybe we had to have the entire SCADA system before that would happen, but then we discovered we didn't, so that's why we were able to push that off. So.
Yep. And that was really the extent of it, is just to review how that setup was working, and sounds like it's going pretty good. So, any questions around that? Okay. Budget and finance.
Well, I just kind of went over future bonds for us, when they're going to be paid off. Talking, you know, we met separately, so Randy was here when I came up, but just talking about when the bonds are retiring and the future of them. How do you go with it?
And I know we'll decide this later, but did you guys come away with a preference of accelerated payments or the longer term payments on this new one? Any thoughts around that? I mean, they were both in the packet today. But
They just got that.
Oh, okay.
But you know, 'cause when we were talking, I just presumed it was going to be a 20-year, but Todd just threw that out.
Oh, okay. So
but
just
so I guess everybody's got that information at the same time.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know what do you want me to tell them?
Well, I personally think we should go with the longer benefits, because even at 20 years, the improvements have a longer life than the payment term, and you'd really be handcuffing the next 7 years by doing that. But it'd be like getting a 2-year car loan on a brand new car that's going to last you 10. I mean, it'd be nice to have it paid off, but you're really going to be paying in kind of a tight squeeze the first 2 years. But
my only thought is getting it paid off so that if down the road we look at expansion of a sewer system here, we've got some funding available to work with.
well, I guess in the funding is going to come from you either bond and repay it over time, or you're going to raise taxes to pay the higher payments earlier. So you're getting the money either way.
Correct.
So,
but either way, and Lon, correct me if I'm wrong, either way, we're not increasing the levy, correct?
The levy itself, no, would
Right.
not.
okay.
The levy, he might put some, depending on how he distributes it and for legalities of how that bond issue would go, because he seems to think whatever the highest bond issue is or rating is, without us being rated, however he sets this up, we're going to get the highest, however we're going to get the highest bond rating. But the question of whether, yeah, if you pay that off short and then you save that it's $370,000, then you got $370,000 a year to use from 2027 on. The other side of it would be you got $200,000 to use for debt service if you only use 130 of it up too, so then, but I don't know what, well, if 160, equates to a $2.7 million project. Well, that's basically, if you saved that, if you didn't do it, you'd have probably a $3.5 million project and that you could bond for. But if you're looking at doing a wastewater treatment project, if that's the next project, you're not going to touch it with 3.5 million, I don't think. I mean, so then if you had the $400,000 used for debt service in 2027, then you might have a $10 million project that you could bond for, you know, so. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I guess I can have him see if he can do it both ways, and then when he comes to issuing it, you can review them both and listen to what he's got to say.
Okay.
He just threw it out there, and I say unless we're totally against one or the other.
No, I'm not totally against one or the other. I just curious kind of where people were at initially. So you guys are thinking? Okay.
So the only thing I would add is if you don't use the full 380,000 and you only use 200 and something, if something totally unrelated to what we know about happens and you need $200,000 a year for something, you got it in 2026 or 7. I mean, it's actual cash that you have in the bank compared to having it committed to paying this debt off. So,
And I understand that, and I mean, I'm not opposed to that, but on the other hand, I don't want it just spent because it's sitting there either.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
And the $400,000 in savings and interest is nice.
Yeah.
So I totally understand both sides.
Yep.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm undecided too. And it's kind of throwing this out there now, so just having the more time to think about it. Be good.
Okay. Anything else with the budget and finance, or was that kind of it for now?
That was it.
Okay. Anything else from the city council? All right. Financial. We're looking for a motion on the month end for July 2020.
So move.
A motion and a second. Second. Any discussion? And a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. I'll be looking for a motion on the bills.
So move.
What is, I got one question on the bills. This, Ratwick, Rozak, and Maloney. They're repeated, their attorneys, what is it?
they're attorneys that we've been using for some employment stuff, some general things that Allison refers out to something different that doesn't necessarily anything that she can.
In the name of the attorney that we deal with directly, is that Tim?
Tim Sullivan.
Tim, yeah.
So
Because now it's another 1,400, so it's like thousands and thousands of dollars.
yeah, it's on.
That's probably what, like 8 hours total?
Less than.
Was it 10?
Less. I don't think. I think I would have to look at it, but it's less than 8 hours. I think.
Can we say what it was for? I mean, it was for, can I say what it was for? Because I asked.
Okay, go ahead.
It was for some FMLA questions, Family Medical Leave Act questions, and some COVID leave clarification for employees.
That Allison doesn't handle.
Some she does, but some not so much.
That's my only question.
Okay. Do we get a motion on that? Oh yeah, well, can I get a
Randy
second?
made a motion.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Any old business? Any new
I do
business?
have old business.
Yeah.
Only because I've been contacted several times by landlords here who really feel that the rental license ordinance is going to get snuck through So I would like to make a motion that we not adopt that.
Not adopt the former,
Correct.
the one that hasn't presented as
Correct.
what's presented.
So that it's dead.
So that all rental ordinances are dead, or that one is dead?
That one is dead.
That one's dead. Okay. I'll agree with you that that one's dead. I'll second that.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say, or any other discussion? Yes. I've talked to a number of people who are against that as well. Strangely, all of them are renters, landlords. I haven't come across any homeowners who are against it, just landlords. But you know, and I asked them, well, what do you think would be a reasonable one? And one of them said the one in New Prague would be fine with them. And I looked at the one in New Prague, and that one was literally, if you have a rental, tell the city the address, give them your name and phone number, and that's all it is. So he was okay with that one. But no, we had a number of issues just on the council, and that's what I told every one of them that came and chatted with me. I was like, hey, you know, if you actually play back the tape, we all had issues with certain segments. I think there was a reason we didn't do the first reading. There was a lot of problems in there with what we saw, and I informed the ones that talked to me, and we never brought it up again since. So I'm totally okay with saying that one's kaput, because we had issues then. People, and we haven't brought it up, but people did talk about it, and I'm supportive of that too. So, but
feedback I got from landlords is if there's an issue, come talk to us, and we'd like to have. We want to be good landlords. Let us give us an opportunity to help you do that. So what I heard from landlords was communicate with us. We'd love to talk.
all right, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. What?
Would it be okay then to add to that before that, in whatever shape, if this does ever come back again, that it comes back with a city attorney recommendation rather than through some other methodology? That if there is ever another rental ordinance would come through a city attorney submittal rather than something else.
So I would amend that motion to say that if there ever is another rental ordinance presented to the council, that the city attorney be present at the meeting.
And can I ask that we add to that we engage landlords in the process?
Who?
You know, it sounds like there needs to be a committee that's going to set up.
I'll amend my motion to include all that.
All right. Then is there a second on that amendment?
Oh, second.
All right. Any discussion? All right. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right. New business. We've got people filing for mayor and council. I don't know if that's a discussion item. Okay. Informational items. We got a revised meeting schedule. Is there any changes?
You know, I don't know. I don't know where this should have gone, but whatever happened to the park board meetings? I guess maybe that's not. Maybe that's under meetings. The meeting schedule.
Yeah.
The park board meeting in June got canceled.
When's the last park board meeting that
Last
happened?
park board meeting was probably last year, I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay.
Just because I feel like there's park board issues that come up, and so if there's not a park board meeting, I don't know what to do with those issues.
I would agree. Of all the complaints, it's mostly the things that could go through the park board that I hear. But
So I'd prefer not to schedule the next few weeks here, but I'm willing to meet. Like, pick a time the week after Labor Day, or maybe before the next meeting.
I agree. I'm pretty open.
We have fire district in September, Rob.
Yes.
That's the third Monday.
21st.
you guys want to put a date on there? I mean, do you just want to pick a date for
I don't
now?
have a calendar on me, so I'm saying the week after
See a
Labor Day.
calendar?
Sure. Labor Day is the 7th, so we meet again on the 16th. Probably makes sense to meet not that night.
We can meet that night if
15th.
you want it. You can meet the 16th if you want.
I
You
think
come in
that's
early?
fine, too.
I can meet.
If that works easier for you, doesn't make any difference.
The 15th or the 16th, I can meet.
I'm good with the 15th. And then if it goes long, we don't have to worry about, what do you think, in 5 o'clock?
Yep.
And then also, like Janet pointed out, the fire department meeting, did that get added?
Well, we got another meeting before then.
Oh, that's right, okay.
Typically, I don't put them on and, right? So,
And toilet water, I mean, maybe this is the rusty water, is that cured yet? I know you got like 3 calls when I was in the office one day. I've gotten calls. My wash machine's rusty. Any ideas? You got
other than the response, I don't know where that response is, but,
So our fire department is flushing next Monday and Tuesday.
You are?
Yes.
Okay.
oh, so you haven't, okay, you didn't see, Jeff, have you got that response somewhere? Where do I find that?
Flushing will be from about 3:30 until 7:30 or 8 each night.
And then do you have plans to do that every month?
No.
No?
Typically, hydrants are flushed in the spring and the fall.
Oh, okay, so just twice a year. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
I'm just curious, does anyone on the council here have like an inline filter? Or anything like that? I don't know. No.
We do on our
RO unit.
pool.
What's that?
Like a reverse osmosis drinking water unit.
No, just like it's like a cartridge
Gotcha.
inline filter.
Like a whole house unit.
Yeah. So, no, okay, so none of us do. I mean, I don't have one either.
I do.
You do?
We, on the pool, we do.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You can be very thankful that you don't have one this year.
A pool?
Because it's a
Or
disaster.
filter.
Yeah, I'm okay with not having it this year. All right. I'll be looking for a motion on the revised meeting schedule.
So moved.
Got a motion, can I get a second?
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, we'll be looking for a motion to adjourn. So, got a motion, can I get a second? Motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned.